sales lead Nate Enan, and 4 of the 5 competitors of the season, Grant Smith, Matt Miles, Corey Atley, and a barely recognizable Perry Galloway. How are you guys doing?
Good.
Doing wonderful.
Doing great.
Great to see you guys. So first off, I am going to ask Grant, since you're the newest on the show, you're what Temple calls one of his beanie babies. What's been your biggest surprise of the show? Did you have any sort of expectations that I don't know, you didn't really, anything you didn't see coming? What's kind of been the biggest shock hanging out with these guys?
I don't know. I just like the camaraderie and, having a relationship with these guys and, learning what they do to help my operations get better for the future, and just the friendships that we make.
Yeah, I think you've really come into the fold quite nicely, honestly. You and Matt have been getting along really well, and I wanted to ask you, Matt, why? So in the first couple episodes, we didn't even get to see you planting because you plant so early. Now, why specifically is that? It seems like all the other guys plant around the same time period, but you kind of beat them by maybe a month or so. Why is that?
Well, I'm further south for the first, that's the main reason. And we've been every year, it seems like we plant a week earlier, 2 weeks earlier, and we get better yield from there. So we keep pushing that envelope. And, this year, probably we're going to look at March 1 to March 15, just to see if that, because every year we plant earlier and it makes a big difference. So, that's probably why we're so further south than the rest of the guys on the Podfathers. Even Perry's a little further north than us, but, that's the biggest reason.
Awesome. And it sounds like you get better results from it. I actually wanted to ask you about, so you had this innovative technique in the second episode. You were talking about these twin rows of corn that you were trying out. Did that end up panning out pretty well for you? I mean, that's pretty unconventional to what I know.
It did. And the reason why is we're a lot wide row than most people because of furrow irrigation. So we're 38-inch wide row is what we call it. And to be able to do the twin row corn on the 38-inch configuration, we can kind of mimic the 30-inch row, that's about as good as we can get. So if we go, if we want to mimic something narrower than 30-inch, we're going to have to go back to the drawing board and start back over. So that's the main reason for that. Try to give the plant spacing, because if you put that in a 38-inch wide row, we're about 4.5 to 5 inches apart. And when we put it in a twin row 38-inch configuration, we're 9 inches by 7. So it gives us a chance to kind of spread those plants out and get a little flex out of the ear and try to be more like a 30-inch row.
That's amazing. I also wanted to say that any of y'all watching, feel free to leave any questions or comments, and these guys would be happy to answer any questions. And
hey, Alex, I got a question.
Yeah, Grant, please.
Hey, Perry, is everything okay at the neighbors?
Perry, can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm on. Go ahead.
Yeah. Grant wanted to know if everything's okay at the neighbors. To those watching, Perry, right before he got on, said that it looked like there was a fire at the neighbor's house or something.
Yeah, I don't know. There's been a rash of fires around my little town, and I don't know what it's related to, but this is about the 4th house in a week. So we got a little bit of arson going on, but yeah, it wasn't next door. It was about 3 houses down, but as I was approaching, it looked like it was at my house. So yeah, we're all good here.
Oh, good.
Good. That's good to hear. Yeah. So to all those watching, we'll do some giveaways during this pre-show where if you comment your location and share this, you'll get a chance to win a Podfather t-shirt and an advanced yield sweatshirt from Corey Atley. Corey, I actually saw something of yours earlier today I saw an episode of Follow the Food on BBC that you were on. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah, that was a pretty fun thing I got to do this summer. It airs Saturday, I think at 10:30 Eastern time on the BBC National Network, and it's a pretty cool in look onto how we're using biologicals to cut back on fertilizer to be more sustainable. So that was a fun thing to do.
Yeah, it's really cool. You're repping a Corn Warriors hat the whole time. So nothing like a little international press, huh?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's really, really cool. So I wanted to ask you as like a, I guess a follow-up, what you would consider your optimal planting conditions, because you kind of said that, I think something along those lines in the last episode, and I wanted to ask you specifically what that looks like, at least, you know, in Cedarville, Ohio.
Not mud. Um, there's so many times that we're planting when it's wet. We have a very small planting window. So when we get that opportunity, we got to go, and we got to go hard. You know, we always try to, you know, do what's best, but at the end of the day, we also got to cover acres. Patience has a big part to do with it. But, you know, last year we planted and it snowed. 2 years ago, we was planting in June, you know, beans in June. So Mother Nature just really controls when we can and cannot plant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great segue, Matt. We're actually working on an episode, I think it'll be next week, where you had this last year in 2021, I guess, a record rainfall for McGee, Arkansas, and we actually got to be there for it on camera. Has there been any major residual effect from, you know, Mother Nature's wrath?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of farmers, and y'all were sitting in there with me on the, you know, on the canal bank when it was raining 22 inches. It rained 22 inches in 12 hours, no, 24 hours on, you know, just a mile north of us. And, you know, we were all sitting there watching that. We didn't quite get that much. We got about 11 inches at that same time. But if y'all remember where we were sitting, all those canals, all the water drains to us. So we ended up shredding about 40 acres of corn right there where we were sitting. So it was a big deal. We still had a really good farm average on our soybeans, even after you took out the flooding. But yeah, it can get really bad, you know, in our area. Now, we don't normally get that kind of rain, but that we did last year, and yeah, we're able to be there when all that happened.
Yeah, it was definitely something for sure. I mean, it felt like we were driving into a hurricane or a tornado at one point. It was awesome. It was radical. We don't usually get stuff like that on camera. So I also wanted to tell Grant that we got a comment on YouTube that we had a gentleman, Buckeye Farm Boy, worked in Keyser, West Virginia a few years ago for Windmills, and they had a great Italian restaurant. Do you happen to know what Italian restaurant that is to recommend to our fans?
Yeah, Stiglia's, but they haven't been open for a little while. They go back to Italy for a little bit.
And then we got another question from JD Farms and Polling. This is kind of open. I haven't really touched on you yet, Perry. I know you're kind of busy driving right now, but this is open to all of y'all. They asked, are any of you planting enlist soybeans, and how did you like them?
It's a great question.
Yeah, go ahead with that, Perry.
Well, here's the problem with it, or here's my issue with it. The yield's just not there. I mean, I'm very outspoken dicamba advocate of dicamba. Never said it was the greatest thing, but it's the best thing we've got with the best yield in Arkansas right now. Now the XtendPlex, that's a whole nother subject, and I'm seeing the same good yields with the XtendPlex as well as the just regular Xtend. So a lot of the acres in my area will be Xtend or XtendPlex. There will be some holdouts with the Enlist. I personally don't feel like the yield's there. And the other thing with the herbicide, with the dicamba, you get a few days of residual activity, and you do not see that with the enlist. You know, it's more just one and done. But with the dicamba, you do get a few days residual, which our nemesis is the Palmer pigweed, and they just keep coming, keep coming. So you know that if we can get a few more days, that really helps.
Perry, have you tried any plenish beans?
Have not, no.
What have any of y'all tried Enlist soybeans yet?
You said plenish.
Yeah,
I mean, just to follow up on JD Farms and Pulling's question, if any.
Oh no, I have not
Okay.
tried planted. I have planted the enlist.
Mhm.
You know, because of rotation, double crop, and the time frame. You know, I have planted enlist, and I've done pretty good with that. Double crop soybeans at 65, 70 bushels is not too shabby. But I just feel like I have opportunity at better yields with the extend or extend flex now for certain.
And I'm gonna have to agree with Perry. It's the same way with us, and it may be different in the groups that we grow. You know, Perry and I grow a late group 4, early to late group 4, and we just have better luck out of the DT beans than we do enlist beans.
I guess I will be the different maker then. I'm not disagreeing with Matt or Perry at all, but just for Ohio's sake, we're in our area, we're anywhere from 2.7, 2.5 bean all the way up to, some people go up to 4.0, mainly at 3.7, 3 and 3/8 to cap. But me this year, we're going to be doing a bunch of side-by-side work, dicamba versus enlist, because of what Perry and Matt was saying, because of the yield drag. And I guess that's something that I want to see in my area and myself, because in the yield contest for the state of Ohio, I have a bunch of farmers that's right on my tail, if not kicking my butt, and they're doing it with enlist beans. So there's something to it, but I agree, it's different areas, different regions, what works best for you. You also got to take into, weed control, for dicamba. For us, if you're against, a high pressure area, a bunch of houses, gardens, other people, not non-GMO beans and different things like that, specialty crops, so you really got to take into account for that. For Ohio specifically, I know Enlist just got banned in 12 counties for endangered species. So, things can come out that we cannot control, that can take away a tool and inside the toolbox. So kind of always got to be open and ready to be able to change.
We had that same thing, Corey. We had 11 counties banned for enlist.
Yeah, it's either 11 or 13. I counted them. It's over on the west side of the state, and it's due to the endangered species, which I don't fully understand that.
I think it's
But I
endangered
agree with
species.
Corey. I mean, if you got real sensitive areas like the ones he mentioned, dicamba is probably not your best choice. But if you're wide open areas like Matt and I are, in most cases with neighbors having the same technology, I just don't see how you don't use the technology. And with Extendplex, you don't have to use dicamba. You use blue phosphonate if you can get any.
So what I'm hearing y'all say is that you're generally not a big fan of these bans.
Of what now?
On the environmentally sensitive areas.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean, just in general, I specifically, Corey's saying it's one less tool in the toolbox, so it's
Well,
that.
I guess to be honest, I'm not educated enough to know what's endangered species and why enlist is hurting them. I mean, I'm never going to sit here and say that we should do anything that's going to take away from the environment, but there's got to be a way to overcome this also, and I maybe it's due to me not researching enough, but there needs to be a better rhyme and reason to the endangered species and why.
Sure.
And I don't fully understand it either. I mean, for example, you may have an endangered species in one part of the county, and then so why should you have to not use the technology and you're 40 to 50 miles away on the other end of the county? That really makes no sense to me.
Mhm. No, that's very valid.
Well,
Um,
from what I understand, the rest of our chemical makeup, they're gonna start working on those too. So, it may be more than just dicamba and enlist, and there's gonna be some more chemicals involved in this, I think, as the EPA goes on, that's gonna be, a little bit scary, in my opinion.
Nate, do you have anything to add in there in this conversation? You've been uncharacteristically quiet.
Oh, just quiet listening. The one thing I noticed too, a little bit with my experience is the dates. Different states will have different dates when you can spray up till. And just from experience, Illinois in 19 had I think it was the 15th of June, then extended to the 21st. And that was a really hot period, and guys couldn't get out because of all the rain. Well, all of a sudden they started using dicamba, and it was 85, 95 degrees out. And that, of course, causes volatility. And the states next to Illinois did not have that ban on it, and they did not have near the claims. They were able to spray when the conditions were right. That's something I think that has a little bit to play in with some of the drift there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, Nate, that's huge. Don't put everybody under the gun and say, well, I got to get it done by a certain date.
Mhm.
And so everybody runs out at the last minute, and adverse conditions are certainly not ideal conditions, and you end up with problems where, to relax a little bit, give us another week, 10 days, 2 weeks, then you're not under so much pressure to get it done. You can get it done in more correct environment.
Absolutely. Yeah. And you saw guys that last week in conditions they shouldn't, but they had to use it's a great tool to take care of the weeds, and they historically hadn't used it. But that was the year they did to get things under control, and it caused a lot of complaints. In fact, I think there was more claims in 19 than there was in 17 and 18 in the state of Illinois.
Well, then when you push us in that situation where you have to do by a certain date, there's people that will be out there doing things when they don't need to. And dicamba is a really good tool. It will kill. And the pairing idea with Palmer amaranth or pigweed, whatever you want to call it, probably as bad as anybody in the United States. And if you let that go, we're talking about 100 bushel, 150 bushel. Yeah, I wish Temple was on here because I'd gig him a little bit about, the yields he makes. But, if pigweeds get out of control, you're talking about 0 to 30 bushel. So, we have to have that tool of dicamba, even enlist or whatever. And if they start taking that away from us, you're talking about yields going down 50% at best.
So yeah, that is the Palmer pigweed is our biggest thing. Actually, I don't know if we talked about this on the show, but I was the first PPO resistant Palmer pigweed confirmed by a university or a scientist of any type in the United States. So I had the first confirmed PPO resistant Palmer pigweed, and that was in 2015. And in 2016, I thought, well, I can get by one more year, and I couldn't. I had to actually destroy some perfect stands of soybeans because I couldn't control the weeds. So yeah, it's real.
Absolutely. I wanted to catch this question that we got on YouTube. This will be probably for you, Grant. Jesse Bain asked, who won corn growers in West Virginia? Do you happen to know? I know that you're a corn grower in West Virginia yourself.
Yeah, we were lucky and we won it.
There you go.
Yeah.
That's all right. Congratulations. Yeah, totally. Nate, while I have you, man, I wanted to ask, you've been to every single one of these farms. And from your swagronomist standpoint, what are some of the advantages and disadvantages that each place kind of has? I know that's kind of a big and loaded question, but what are some of the big advantages and disadvantages that you've noticed in these locations?
Well, there's advantages and disadvantages everywhere. It's just interesting to see how guys overcome it. I won't say different technology, but different methods of doing it. I mean, you get down south where Perry and Matt are. I mean, that's a totally different world than what I'm used to looking at raised beds, and they talked a little bit last week about the raised beds and the benefits there. You know what I mean? So there's some but advantages that they found to use with their irrigation, the way they do it. And that's neat. And then you get up to Corey's neck of the woods and it's more of a Midwest type, if you will. You know what I'm saying? And, he takes advantage of what he can, and weather's going to play a lot of key everywhere. Grant, on the other hand, Grant's got mountains that he's got to cross and rivers. I think it's the Potomac itself, isn't it, Grant?
Yep.
And so there's that. One thing I see that would be hard, for Matt and Perry, something I'm not used to is you've got a field of cotton next to you. You've got different crops. You know what I mean? That you got to watch out. We're talking from a chemistry standpoint and how they handle it.
Totally. That's very insightful. I wanted to make sure that we hit these last couple questions before we get into the pre-show. JD Farms and Pulling on YouTube asked if any of y'all put down a pre-emergent.
It's a great question.
Absolutely. I mean, we have to. Perry and I both have to. I'm not sure about the rest of the guys, but we have to put down a pre. We have to overlap residuals. I mean, dicamba is a good tool, and this is a good tool, but you better overlap residuals to try to keep, the best weeds one that don't come up. So we have to overlap residuals to try to keep the weeds from not coming up, and then hopefully attack them when they're very, very small, and go from there.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, every time I go across the field, until canopy closure, I've got at least a group 15 in with whatever my contact is, whether it's dicamba or enlist or glufosinate. Yeah, we're putting a group 15 with. And early, we might use some Valor. I mean, we've got a few options, but Valor's a PPO, but putting that as a pre-emerge is still about 50-60% effective.
Corey, Grant, what about you guys?
Yeah, same here. I know on last week's episode, I talked about being careful of putting down, a pre-emergent residual. We still use it. I mean, we're a very big fan. We got to have them for the weed control. It's just our lookout is when you're planting in those cold soil types, we just don't want a PPO injury to that seed. So, but we're still going to use it. We'll come back and and stack residuals twice. Weed control is everything. The thing is, Perry or Matt that just said it. You can take a yield that had 100 bushel potential, have a weed outbreak, and now you're looking at 30 bushels. So that's what you don't want. So before you can even start to get to the fun stuff, you got to make sure that the weed control is there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Grant, what about you?
We use Authority and Metribuzin and Sharpen.
Roger that. Well, last question I wanted to get to was from Buckeye Farm Boy on YouTube that asked if any of the Podfathers are going to National Farm Machinery Show and which days.
I've been asked to go ahead and I hadn't committed yet. I'm supposed to be out of the country, but it looks like that's falling through. So I might be able to show up for a few days. It's usually around Valentine's Day, I think, or Wednesday. What are the dates? It's Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or something like that. About 3 or 4 days.
Yeah, to my knowledge, it's the last weekend of February.
Last weekend of February. No, I think it's in the middle. It's around Valentine's Day.
It is Valentine's Day. Okay.
And Valentine's Day is on a Monday, I think. No, I don't know.
It's 15th through the 18th.
Okay, so it's the second to last week in February. Gotcha. Okay. Corey, are you going?
This will actually be the first one that I missed in a long time. So me and my wife is actually going out of town for her birthday, and we're going to skip the National Farm Machinery Show. So we have no pulling vehicles to be there, so we're going to get away and go somewhere different this year.
I'll be at the top producer meeting in Nashville.
Nice. And what about Commodity Classic? Everyone going to that?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yep. We'll be at the Commodity Classic.
Yep.
Absolutely. Nate, you got any questions for these guys before we head on out to this premiere in about 60 seconds?
No, I just a lot of good stuff here. We're gonna have a fun time watching the episode here. There's a lot of good stuff on this week's episode. One thing, Temple's not here. Love seeing his kids getting involved. You guys will get to see that. Alexander's doing a great job. It's awesome, you know, and then you get to see Grant. Grant will be on there quite a bit. And Grant, I guess I got one thing for you. Using that Soil Warrior, were you pretty happy with the seed bed you had left?
Absolutely. Actually, the place that you'll see in the video, it was pretty tough. That place was pretty neglected, and we had some heavy sod, and we made it work. But yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong on that piece of ground. If we'd went right across the river, we were in a different state, weren't we? You've got a couple pieces like that.
Absolutely. Every place I have is like that.
Yeah, that's interesting to me. You know, you could throw a rock and hit the next state. So that's pretty cool. So, hey, Austin, how's it going?
I'm gonna go ahead and say that I'm not on this episode. This is one of the best episodes I've watched.
Awesome.
Oh, that's high praise for sure.
Yeah, I just want to say
Thank you, Matt.
real quick, Grant, this is your first full episode. Welcome to the family.
Thank
I've
you.
not seen
Thank
it
you
yet.
guys for welcoming me.
I can't wait to see it. And then just Temple's kids. I mean, Little T, still got to
That's
be my
awesome.
favorite. And then Alexander stopped by our shop this winter. Great young man. Great young man. Temple's done a great job. Great crew he's got going there. And great kids. So I know Temple's not here, but Temple's okay, but his kids, they're awesome.
I agree, Corey.
The future's definitely bright. Well, Grant, Matt, Nate, Corey, Perry, really appreciate y'all taking the time here. Seth, let's go ahead and go right into 203. Really appreciate you guys stopping by, and you know, here's to another great season.
Enjoyed it.
Glad to be here. Have a good evening.
Thanks, guys.
We're getting close to being done for the year. Got one more tanker load coming, and then we'll be done. Having some problems with my pressure, so I think I got a cog strainer. I got to clean it out here in a minute once we get done pumping in. Chad, maybe 50 gallons, if that. Go slower. All right, that's good. My pressure's going outrageous. It usually runs about 30, but it was running up about 60, and I was having a hard time keeping my rate. Well, we took the strainer out because we were running so many gallons, but I was wondering